I want to take you through a short exercise so you can feel for yourself what is meant by the phrase no self, no problem. So, Buddhism is very old and cognitive science is very new, but they both arrived at the conclusion that the self is an illusion. And it's an illusion that comes about by, well, a thinking problem. So, imagine, uh, well, just ask a question. What does anxiety, depression, narcissism, low self esteem all have in common? Well, they're all thinking problems. And it's not to say that there's something wrong with thinking in and of itself. It's just that some thoughts are problematic. And I want to cover at least a few of these. The first problematic thought is that, and just it gets a little rough, but the first problematic thought is that for every thought, there must be a thinker behind the thought. Okay. Now, cognitive science has shown that the brain makes many false conclusions, and this is just another one of them. But another problematic thought is that of ownership. In other words, some thoughts we own in the same way that we own a car, and others that we ignore. And what is ownership really when it comes down to it, but just another thought? I mean, I can get in my car and drive away, and the only reason I can do that is because everyone kind of agrees that I own that. And so we really come down to what ownership is. It's just a collective thought agreement, but that can be very powerful. Consider the difference between I am depressed versus there's depression in the skull. I am anxious versus there is anxiety. How about um, uh, I want revenge versus there are thoughts of revenge in the skull? And so it's kind of like imagine you're at the airport. And when you go to the airport, you pick up your luggage. You pick up some and you leave the rest and you drag those around. That's exactly what we do with thoughts. And we don't have to. Imagine if you go to the airport and you just passively watch the luggage go round and round. Well, imagine if you do this with your thoughts. If you do, you might find that you'll have an insight that the thinker behind the thoughts is itself just another thought. It's like going back to the airport and imagining some piece of luggage, believing that it's going to pick up and leave with other pieces of luggage. It's just not going to work. So imagine an empty airport, empty except for personality, less awareness. So consciousness without any particular personality to it. See, most of our problems are our problems. When was the last time, if you're honest, when was the last time you stayed awake all night worrying about someone else's problems? Maybe I can put it this way. Back in the 80s, I had a terrible beater car, and it would burn oil so bad that if I came up to a red light, it would just be this big smoke cloud, and everyone around me would roll up their windows. And the brakes didn't work, so I'd always have to think ahead. And there are all kinds of other issues with it, and it's just filled with all kinds of problems. Well, so much that one day I just drove to a junkyard and got $50 for it. And I remember very explicitly the feeling I had when I was walking away, because once I dumped that car, all the problems went along with it. And that's exactly the same as when you see through the idea of the self.